Hey guys, Spiritual Wondress here, coming to you the beginning of this week in November to have more real talk. And I feel like in this one, I want to touch upon a little bit more of my testimony. As we all know that are on the spiritual path, that you will have experiences that you can't really tell anybody. Not just anybody, because when we talk about this stuff, and what I'm referencing here, guys, is paranormal experiences, whether they're divine or demonic. An experience that is, whether it's a ghost, along those lines, right? As you begin to awaken and your third eye becomes online, you will have experiences that you can't really have a normal conversation about. And so me being me, that's all about authenticity and taboo and breaking the stereotype and being real and upfront on what the spiritual journey is like, I feel like this is a very important part that a lot of us tend to just not talk about publicly because, again, the labeled crazy. Me, I have been labeled that so much as to purposely insult me. It doesn't bother me. So if it doesn't bother me, I might as well come forward with 100% my authentic journey, right? My skin is a very thick skin at this point, guys. Let me just put it that way. With the online bullying and targeting and being ostracized in a spiritual community, it doesn't faze me, the labels that can get thrown out there anymore. Not everybody is there yet. I hope not everybody has to get there, because what I went through to get there was very inhumane. Another story, another time. I've already gotten into this. That's not what this is about. This is about coming forward with things that may make us look a little out there. But there are many people out there having these experiences. They don't know what to make of it. And that they need to hear other people's story to know that they're not alone in experiencing certain things, right? That's how I take it anyways. And so, hence, I'm going to tell you guys a story, an experience of mine that happened along the very beginning of my spiritual awakening. I'm going to go back to 2010. I want to say that's really when the awakening first began. It catapulted 2012 into my dark night, but 2010 I found myself started to be interested like in Reiki and Hare Krishna and other not taboo, but other religions, to try to grasp the religion outside of Christianity that I grew up in. And so 2010 was the beginning of that journey for me. I was trying to understand the world beyond just Christianity. And I want to say I was agnostic the majority of my life prior to my spiritual awakening. Bordering atheist. I think because of the trauma of my childhood and stuff like that, I didn't believe in God, which is a very common experience, I think. When you have a really devastating background, you feel like, why didn't God protect me and all of that? And that's where I was at that point in my life. And so I wouldn't say I was a full believer in 2010. I would say that my mind became open in 2010. Let's fast forward to 2012. That was the catapult into my dark night ego death. It was a horrific decade of my life, because this dark night lasted a good decade. Granted, a lot of it, I was my own worst enemy, but still, a lot of it was a necessary going into the wilderness, the inside, and getting to know myself and heal myself on a very deep level. But 2012, I grew up in a very Christian family, Baptist, Christian Baptist, Southern Baptist. And when I started delving into these topics of other spirituality based philosophies, my family was very against it. And so I had to hide that aspect of it. And it made me very confused on, do I believe in spirituality, or am I going to remain atheist, that I just don't think this exists because, one, my family was trying to make me feel like there's only one way, and two, I just felt like I didn't have enough information to make the correct theory on where I stood, right? 2012, I got to a point where I put everything on hold as far as the spiritual journey and delving into other spirituality topics. My dark night began, and it was very intense. At this time, I was heavily into my addiction because I couldn't understand why I felt so lost in the world. I was about 25 during this time, and it was like I was, instead of 25 getting married and knowing who you are and building your career and all that, it's like I started going backwards in this dark night. And because I didn't understand the process I was going through yet, I became my own worst enemy, and I got really deep into addiction. At this point in time, guys, I was drinking a bottle of Jack Daniels a day. I had a really bad pain pill addiction. It was a really dark time in my life. I couldn't understand what was happening, and I had all these questions that I felt like I wasn't getting the right answers to. And then I tried to block it. I tried to block that part of me because everybody in my intimate world was against it. And so I had gotten to a really bad place where probably one of the darkest times in my life. And here I am drinking a bottle of Jack Daniels a day and deep into like 10 Lord tabs a day, really heavily into just my addiction. And I got to a point where I just fell to my knees and I said, God, if you exist, if you are real, I need you to give me a sign because I can't do this anymore. It was a complete come to Jesus moment, come to spirituality. It wasn't just Jesus, it was come to some higher power. I had to know, if you exist, this is the moment I really, really need you to let me know that you do. And that my thoughts, my philosophy, that if I just end my life and I just have it over with, that my pain will just permanently stop. I was getting to that point, guys. And so I fell to my knees and I asked that question, and nothing miraculous came. I didn't have some really beautiful divine experience. I had the opposite experience. 3 days later, after me falling to my knees and asking God, if you exist, and to show me a sign if you exist, that I really need to know, I need you, you know. I was sleeping in the middle of the night and I had my window open a crack because it was the time of year when it was just really beautiful outside, and you could, instead of having the air on, the air coming from outside was ideal. And in front of my window, it was half a sidewalk and then half rocks, leading to where I guess you could park an RV or some storage. And I had woken up to 3, this is very important, 3 loud boot steps. To the point my dogs heard it too and started barking like crazy, which is also what woke me up to this happening. And I immediately got up and looked out my window, my bedroom window, and I didn't see anything. And what I found weird is that the three boots, like the three boot steps, like it sounded like boots, guys, like cowboy type boots. But I didn't hear any rocks shuffle. There was only three boot steps. It didn't continue. I didn't hear anybody run off. Like I would have heard rocks, or I would have heard more footsteps, right? It was just 3. I looked out my window. I didn't see anything. I thought, whatever. I'm gonna go back to bed. I went back to bed. From that moment on, though, I started having experiences, paranormal experiences in my house. And stuff like banging on the walls, cupboards slamming. I distinctly felt the most evil, demonic presence in my dining room. I did not confide in anybody about this because at that point in my life where I was mentally and understanding this, it was crazy. I was losing my mind. This stuff does not exist. It's not real. Everything that we are programmed and conditioned as human beings to believe that stuff is crazy talk, that's what was going on inside of my mind. That I was completely losing it, and I had to keep this to myself. It was so terrifying, that feeling that entity gave off, and it hung out in the dining room. I would be scared to go to the kitchen, let's say for water in the middle of the night, to the point where I had to turn on all my lights in the house. I was scared to even go outside of my room at night because of the banging, the cupboards, this really evil presence feeling in my dining room. Weeks go by. I'm internally dealing with this. I don't tell anybody about this. And my mom is there. And she happens to wake up in the middle of the night to let her dog out. And she got angry. She's like, why are all the lights on in the middle of the night? I'm sure she was just cranky because she had to let the dog out. She woke up and she didn't want to do that, whatever, all of that. And then she went back to bed. The next, after yelling that. And then the next day, she came to me and she's like, Jess, I feel like there's a presence in your house. And not a good one. And I asked her specifically where she felt this presence that, the night that she woke up in the middle of the night. And she's like, it's in your dining room. And that was my, okay, this is really happening. This is really, really happening. It wasn't just me losing my mind, my addiction, none of that. It was like, this was really, another person is experiencing it. And at that point, I confided in my mother what I had been experiencing. It was like full on, guys, Paranormal Activity, the movie. Like it was clearly, looking back on it, very demonic. And that's where those 3 boot steps come into play, right? Because when you hear like 3 sounds, whether it's boot steps or knocking on the wall, 3 is the mocking of the Holy Trinity. That's why I heard 3 boot steps of whatever this thing was that came to my house after I had that come to God moment. And so I talked with my mom. What do I do? What do we do? We went to a spiritual shop. We got sage. We talked to somebody. We prayed to Archangel Michael, to all God, to all the right things. We saged the house. We asked it to leave. All of that. That night was the first night that I didn't feel its presence. And I thought, okay, this worked. We're good. Now, mind you, up until this point, I had only experienced these things at nighttime. During the day, I never experienced them. It was only at night this entity made itself known and was harassing me. And, but after I thought I got rid of it with my mom, I was home alone during the day. And the way my house was set up, I had my couch right here, and then behind me would be my dining room. And so I'm sitting on the couch in the living room and I'm watching TV, and all of a sudden, I don't just feel that same evil presence in the dining room. I feel it like as if it was breathing on my neck right behind me. And it, guys, this was a demonic entity. I can't even describe how terrifying and just evil, pure evil the presence was. And of course, it's in my head. I'm just flipping out. It's never happened in the daytime before. I'm just scared because I'm afraid that it hasn't left. This is just in my mind. It's in my mind. It's not real. So I got up, I have my phone in my hand, and I start walking down the hallway to, at the very end of the hallway is a bathroom. Start walking to the bathroom. And I have my phone in my hand. And at this point, when I hit the bathroom, all of a sudden, my phone starts shutting down and crashing. Like as if it was a computer back in the 90s, back in the day, when it would just all of a sudden crash and like flash screens and just crash. My phone all of a sudden did that. I've never had my phone do this. I haven't experienced that on a cell phone to this day. That was the one and only time. It crashed, and then I'm looking at it. I'm not touching the screen, anything. It starts to come up in power again. It powers back on. And as it powers back on, it pulls up the text app. It opens up the text app on its own. Like my message app, right? And all of a sudden, I'm watching it. I'm not touching it. I'm just watching this unfold on my phone. It started typing, "Why you? Bye bye." I flipped out. I ran out of that house. Went to my sister, called my sister. Like I was just flipping out because she was like, this is really happening. I made her go to my house and check it out. Like I just lost it at that point. She didn't discover anything. And that was the last time that entity was in my house. I believe now that when I fell to my knees and I said, "God, if you exist, I need you to show me a sign, because I'm at the bottom of the bottom as far as my addiction goes and as far as me wanting not to be here anymore." And whatever, I feel like there was a presence, a demonic presence in my life that was driving me to that point. And whatever this was so angry that I had finally turned to ask the question that would save my life and lead me down the spiritual path. Like the dark, it had me in its grasp. It full on had me. Did not believe in God. I heavily in my addiction. I didn't want to be here anymore. I was contemplating not being here anymore. It had me, and it knew it. But something inside me knew to fall to my knees and ask a very important question. And it was angry. I believe the dark forces sent this demonic entity to my house as one last hurrah, one last attempt. It was so close to having me. It wanted to send one of its mightiest dark generals to my house. That's how evil this presence was. It wasn't just a ghost. It wasn't just a little demonic entity. This was like Satan himself, the feeling of it, guys. I can't even convey it unless you personally have experienced this. I truly believe that it had me, and it knew it, and it was angry. It was angry that I was turning to God, and this was the turning point in my life for my salvation. And it did everything in its power to really try and get to me. And before it left, it had one last hurrah in it, right? To say, why you? Bye-bye. It was angry. Why you? It was so close that it had me. Why you? I wanted you for my dark. I had your soul. Why you? Bye-bye. That was the end of that entity in my home. Granted, I would come as my spiritual journey started to begin. I'd come to have many more experiences, some beautiful and divine and angelic, some not so pleasant, but definitely not on that level, right? That was a major turning point in my soul's journey, and it knew it. And so when I fell to my knees and I asked God, do you exist? I need you. Something else answered me. But it still did its purpose to making me realize there's more to this plane of existence. There's more to life than what I currently have believed up until this point. That experience made me a believer. Through that experience, I was no longer agnostic or atheist. Through that experience, I would end up little by little getting the strength to fight my addiction. I didn't drink like I used to after that. I still suffered from a pain pill addiction for quite some time. I've won that battle, and thank God. It was a very long and hard battle. But the depths of where I was at that point, I hadn't gone. I'd beat that, right? I'd had periodic moments of where I backtracked and all that, but I never went to that extreme as I did dark-wise in that house at that time. Everything that came my way after that, I had spiritual strength and believing in a higher power. And I think that was a very crucial turning point in my consciousness, in my evolution. Recognizing that, one, even if I did take myself out, like, there is no end. Like, there's something else beyond this. And there's something evil beyond this. And if I do what I've been thinking of during that time, it would have me. Whatever it was that I experienced in that house would have me. And I didn't want to be with that thing. It was, people that have experienced a demonic force entity know exactly what I'm talking about here. The energy coming from that thing was terrifying. But through this terrifying experience, God answered my question, if he exists. Because not only did he show me that dark exists, that there's a hell realm, there's entities out there that are pure evil and that are after me, but also that he, God, a higher power, exists and helped me remove that from my home. It was a full-on spiritual warfare battle, guys. That was a big turning point in my spiritual journey. Without a shadow of a doubt, from that point on, I was a full-on believer. I didn't know where I fit exactly as far as Christianity, spirituality, all of that. That would take time to get to know myself and where I stand on that, away from my family's dogma on it, on the whole Southern Baptist, deep, hardcore Christian religion. But even then, in the Baptist Christian faith, we don't talk about spiritual warfare. These are things that don't really happen in the Christian church unless you're going into like Orthodox Christianity. It's just taboo. We don't talk about these things because it's crazy. It doesn't exist. It's in your head. You don't talk about those things. Hence, why I'm coming forward and talking to you guys about this. Guys, because this was such a profound experience in my spiritual evolution that without it, I don't know if I'd be here today. It was the most terrifying thing, but sometimes I believe that God has to literally scare the crap out of you to get you to wake up to what you're up against and what's going on here. Who knows, if I would have had God answer me in this divine experience, like some people have had when they hit that fall into their knees moment, they have a beautiful experience. Who knows? I may have had that experience, like that, but then been like, I'm going to take myself out because that's a much more heavenly experience than the one I want to experience here. Maybe I had to experience that dark, that evil to make me realize that if I continue that train of thought I was having, and if I continue my destructive ways in my life, that's where I'm ending up. So, this is for people out there that are having experiences they can't easily talk about. I want you guys to come here and have a safe place to talk about these things, right? To take off the mask, to be real, raw, genuine, and authentic, and not worry about labels here on my channel. This is spiritual talk, real life stuff, guys. And it wasn't just like I'm the only one that experienced it. I had another person that confirmed that this was truly happening in my home. It's so important to also see the value in dark demonic experiences, because very often that will be the one thing that truly, truly turns us on to the path of the light, because it was so horrific and scary experience that we don't want to ever deal with that again. And it makes us ask questions that the majority of society do not ask, right? Hence, the Christian church not really talking about demonic forces and entities unless it's more orthodox in nature. So, I'm coming forward with this to hopefully bring about awareness that these things need to be talked about. And just to let you guys know, if you're having an experience, if you've had one and you don't know what to make of it, who to talk to about it, it's so crucial to find the ones out there, like myself, that have had these experiences and are okay talking about it and will confirm that these things exist. Again, I'm so over people wearing a mask and acting a certain way and not wanting to break certain taboos in society because of the labels we get. And so that's why I'm doing this. And I'm going to talk more about my other experiences I've had. I've had some really beautiful divine angelic experiences as well, guys. It hasn't been all evil. I think just that I had to go, it's like God had to go to that extreme. On one hand, God allowed it. He had to go to that extreme to show me that what was happening in my life, I was being heavily influenced by dark forces that knew it had me and it wanted me. The devil, the dark forces have known who we are from the moment we're born, guys. They know who we are long before we know who we are and long before our purpose comes into play. And if you identify as a chosen one on the chosen path, trust me, the dark is going to come for you hard, because it does not want you to own your light and share that with the world. In my journey, it has done everything possible to try and halt me from my purpose here. That's just one story, the beginning story, but I've had many more experiences of spiritual warfare where I have been People have been, trying to take me off my path at any and all cost. It's so important for us to know what we're up against. And to not look at these negative experiences as terrifying and scared of it, right? Like it was a pivotal moment in my spiritual evolution that I feel like I needed. Sometimes God will allow these things to happen so we can wake up. It's not a gentle rocking. It's not a love. It's a wake the F up type experience. That's what I needed. And so this is part of my spiritual testimony. And I just feel like I always knew I'd come public with it. I didn't know when or how, but I knew this is part of my testimony that eventually I would tell one day. And this happens to be the day I feel that it needs to come out. So I'm curious, guys, what has been your experience as far as paranormal experiences? Please leave it in the comment below. I want to hear other people. Like, what was your major awakening experience? Even if it was beautiful, divine, and angelic, or if it was absolutely like mine, terrifying and mind-boggling and wake the F up type moment. These moments are crucial in our awakening journey. And it's crucial to be okay to come out and talk about these things, and not just it's taboo. We don't want to be labeled and shamed. Like, come on, guys, let's start breaking this taboo and labeling and start talking about these things. They really exist. They really happen. And the more we start opening up about this, the more it gives other people the opportunity to start opening their mind and opening up about their experiences, and not completely shutting it down like it's crazy. Like the human mind wants to automatically shut it down as crazy and stop. We need to rewrite that programming, guys, because so many people have these profound experiences and they don't let it impact their spiritual evolution because their human programming has been designed to immediately shut up. Don't go there. These experiences are happening for a reason. So, again, family, leave your experience below. Let's get this conversation started and start being open about the good and the bad paranormal experiences we have in our journey. I look forward to reading them. Spiritual Undress here, coming to you. And I look forward to the next one, guys.